Hi everybody, Erica Heron here with the Positive and Practical Parent Ending Parenting Battles with Erica. Before I go any further, I want to encourage you to hit subscribe on this video so that you are notified of new videos that I post and so that you have a more easy time finding my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about toddler sleep schedules. And really these schedules could apply to older kids as well, but for simplicity I'm going to call them toddler sleep schedules. In my toddler and older Q&A Facebook group, I have a lot of questions about what is a good bedtime, when should my child be napping, what is a reasonable time to be getting up, things like that. So I know it can be hard to figure out what a good schedule for your child looks like, and I always found it really helpful to find more concrete examples of what a schedule should look like when I was getting my child's schedule when he was little, in the infant years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some general guidelines that you should be thinking about when creating your own child's schedule. So first of all, the why. Why is a schedule important? So it's kind of ironic that I'm sitting here talking about sleep schedules because when I was pregnant, I swore up and down that my child would not be on a schedule. He was going to sleep whenever and wherever. And it was really all a testament to how little I knew about babies and sleep because it did not go well. I had a child who, if he didn't have a dark, quietish place to sleep, he would not sleep and he would get overtired, and then he would be screaming and screaming until he finally passed out. It was quite terrible, to be honest. So I became a schedule adopter, and I'll talk a little bit at the end about why that's actually not been such a terrible thing. So more on the why of a regular schedule. So everybody feels better when they sleep on a regular schedule. Adults feel better, kids feel better, your mood is better during the day, you fall asleep more easily and sleep better at night. It's unfortunate but true. We just all do well and thrive with routine. Also, if your child has some kind of sleep issue going on, they're waking in the night, they're waking really early, bedtime is hard. The first suggestion I'm going to make is getting them on a schedule and getting a regular bedtime. So if you're looking to address sleep, this is something that you're going to want to do anyway. And the good news is that sometimes this can actually address the sleep issue completely, just getting on a regular schedule and a good bedtime. So let's see. Now, bedtime. Bedtime is not necessarily when your child falls asleep. What I'm referring to when I say bedtime is when you place your child in their bed, in their crib, and you say good night and you turn out the lights. That's bedtime. Now, we hope that your child falls asleep within 30 minutes of that. Eventually, they might not right away, but bedtime is essentially the time that you turn out the lights and they begin the process of settling in and falling asleep. All right, so your child's ideal bedtime obviously depends on their age and their total sleep needs. Even at the same age, not all kids sleep the same amount of time. So it also depends on the time that they need to be up in the morning. So if you need to get your kids up at a certain time to get ready for daycare or school, then you need to factor that in when you're coming up with bedtime as well. But to make it a little easier, most children's ideal bedtime is between 7 and 8 p.m. for you, like toddlers, young toddlers, but not moving past 8:30 even into the school age years. So there's not a whole lot of leeway here as far as what the best bedtime is. And there's all kind of research on these bedtimes talking about how earlier bedtimes result or are correlated with less childhood obesity. They're correlated with better performance in school, less behavioral issues. It's actually crazy. If you look up bedtimes and what consequences not having a consistent early bedtime can have, there's a lot of research out saying that the earlier bedtime is good. So 7 to 8 or as late as 8:30, and that's a good place to start. So don't let your toddler decide what time they should go to bed. They are not going to pick an optimal bedtime. They are going to wait until they are so tired that they can't go on, and it's not going to probably fall in that 7 to 8:30 time. Or if it does, it will be because they woke up so early that day or didn't nap that they're just so tired by that time. So if you are letting your child put themselves to sleep whenever they seem tired, that is going to result in a pretty crazy schedule, not a consistent schedule, and it'll probably actually, at least eventually, lead to the development of other sleep issues. So I'm going to talk a little, or I'm going to link in the comments of this video a blog post that I wrote about circadian rhythms, and I would suggest reading that as well. Let's see. So if your child still naps, by the age of 2, they should be done napping by 3:30 so that they're tired enough to fall asleep at that bedtime that I mentioned earlier, that 7 to 8. There are some kids who won't have a problem taking a later nap and then falling asleep at their usual bedtime. I have met some of them, but they are few and far between, and most kids won't be tired enough if they end their nap less than 4 hours before bedtime. So I know my child is definitely one of those. If we let him get a late, If we let him get a late nap, then he is not going to fall asleep at bedtime. Next, if your child is, 3 or older, maybe even 2, and recently dropped a nap, bedtime might need to be moved even earlier to help with the transition so that your child gets enough sleep. So throw the thing that I said about the 7 to 8:30 bedtime out the window, or 7 to 8, it might need to be even earlier. You're going to want to, if they're not napping during the day anymore, then you're going to want to try sneak in at least another extra hour of nighttime sleep. So adjust bedtime accordingly. Okay, bad news. A reasonable time to be waking up is sometime between 6 and 8 a.m. So we would all love our children to sleep until 8 a.m. every day, but unfortunately, some kids are just early risers, and while there are things that you can do about that, I'm also going to link in the comments a blog post that I wrote about early morning wakings. Sometimes there's still going to be a 6 o'clock on the dot type of kid for the most part. So if they are 6 o'clock on the dot type of person, try moving bedtime a little earlier to make sure they're getting enough sleep. But if they're getting enough sleep, if their sleep's in the normal range and they're just an early riser, then that just might be the way your kid is. Let's see. I'll also link a blog post I wrote about the total sleep needs that a kid has, so that you can look by your child's age and reference, to see if they are getting enough sleep for their age. There's a little bit of variability, but it's really generally only like a half hour on either side. So I will link that. And then the last thing, a note about schedules taking over your life, which is what I was afraid was going to happen. The bad news is that you will need to be consistent when you're starting fresh with a schedule for at least a month, maybe 2. I actually found as a parent that I enjoyed knowing when my child was going to go to sleep and I was going to get some time to myself. The other good news is that once your child's schedule is established, you're not going to ruin anything by occasionally, giving them a late nap, putting them to bedtime late, maybe even skipping a nap, things like that. So your routine is not going to jail you to your house for the rest of your life, nor should it. You will need to be consistent at the beginning, but after that, you'll actually probably have more flexibility because you'll know that your child will go back to being a good regular sleeper the next day when you're back on your routine. That is all I have for everybody today. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. I would love to hear any comments or feedback or questions that you have in the comments, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.